Hey everybody, this is Miriam Mick, and you have found the live chats with howtoliveintopeace.com. How to Live Into Peace, the Facebook page now, and the Facebook group. These chats build on information that is on the howtoliveintopeace.com website. There is a free course there with all the information about how our thoughts affect us, some of those things. And so this particular chat is about relationships. And if there's anything that can get us out of peace, it can be our relationships and how we get into them, how we navigate them, and some of the greatest joys can be in our relationships. So it's one of those topics that I've got a lot of information about, because in my life that's been the area of most difficulty, relationships, romantic relationships. But this is also about friendships and about the groups that we choose to belong to, choosing those significant others in our lives, whatever that might look like. There's some information that I'm going to share, and I share with you the things that in my life I have found to be true. Please take what works for you, and what doesn't work for you, discard it, dismiss it. I wanted to start with a book, or a reading from a book. This is how Conversations with God 2 by Neale Donald Walsch. And in this, he's talking about how we all have a particular energy or frequency that we are transmitting all the time, and so does everybody else. So as these energies come together, they create a new energy, and that's what this particular reading is about. So bear with me just a minute. This says it better than I could ad-lib it. So, and I read better without my glasses. All the world is exchanging energy all the time. This is a quote, and it's from page 84 and 85. All the world is exchanging energy all the time. Your energy is pushing out, touching everything else. Everything and everyone else is touching you. But now an interesting thing happens. At some point, midway between you and everybody else, everything else, those energies meet. To make a more vivid description, let's imagine two people in a room. They are on the far sides of the room from each other, and we'll call them Tom and Mary. Now, Tom's personal energy is transmitting signals from Tom in a 360-degree circle out in the universe. Some of that energy wave hits Mary. Mary, meanwhile, is emitting her own energy, some of which hits Tom. But these energies meet each other in a way you may not have thought of. They meet midway between Tom and Mary. Here the energies unite. Remember now, these energies are physical phenomenon. They can be measured and felt. And so that was in parentheses. That they unite and combine to form a new energy unit we'll call Tom-Mary. It is the energy of Tom and Mary combined. Tom and Mary could very well call this energy the body between us, for it is just that, a body of energy to which both are connected, which both are feeding the continuing energies which flow into it, and which is sending energies back to its two sponsors along the thread or cord or pipeline that always exists within the matrix. Indeed, this pipeline is the matrix. It is this experience of Tom-Mary which is the truth of Tom and Mary. It is to this holy communion that both are drawn, for they feel along the pipeline the sublime joy of the body between, of the joined one of the blessed union. Now, these are folks that have not even met. Tom and Mary, standing off at a distance, can feel in a physical way what is going on in the matrix. Both are urgently drawn toward this experience. They want to move toward each other at once. Now their training sets in. The world has trained them to slow down, to mistrust the feeling, to guard against hurt, to hold back. But the soul wants to know Tom-Mary and wants to know it now. If the two are lucky, they will be free enough to set aside their fears and trust that love is all there is. They are irrevocably drawn now, these two, to the body between them. Tom Mary is already being experienced metaphysically, and Tom and Mary will want to experience it physically. Now it goes on to share what that is like sexually. But in any relationship, we have this energy moving out and energy moving back, and it meets us at a level that we might not consciously understand, but we feel it. So when we are, whether we're attracted to certain friends, certain people, certain speakers, this kind of energy is coming out and coming back to us. And so there's, in truth, a part of what happens in relationship that we have no control over, but we do at some level of intuition recognize it. So we are drawn to it, and he wasn't talking about this, but sometimes that interaction is something we are not drawn to at all. So that begins our discussion. And as you come online, or as you, one of the things that I've discovered is because of my site, I can't see what you write. So I'll introduce the information and then take questions at the end for those of you who want to ask questions. And if you're seeing this after the fact, please add your questions to the bottom, the comment section, and I will do my best to review those from time to time and to get back to your questions. You can also email me at miriam@howtoliveintopeace.com, and I will get your questions there and can respond individually to you. So, if it's true, and I believe it is, it seems to be true in my life, that there's certain types of people, certain energies that we are attracted to more than others. How is it that that is created? How is it that happens in us? And the next resource that I want to share with you is from Harville Hendricks, PhD, and this was a workshop I went to years and years ago, a book I read, and then later went to the workshop, Getting the Love That You Want, called Getting the Love You Want, a guideline for couples, Harville Hendricks. And his theory is the imago theory, the same root as image. And what he says happens, and I believe this is true, it certainly has been true in my life, that we become attracted to the image that we first, of our caregivers. There might be more than one, father, mother, older brother in my case, and then some that had less impact, but were certainly a part of that. So if you think about when you came in as a baby, who was in the mix? And as infants, all of those folks get joined together in an image or an imago. So whatever their character traits are, whatever their physical traits are, whatever their energy is like for you, that all gets combined into an image. And what his theory is that we are attracted to those people whose imago is, or energy, is a good match with the imago that's buried deep in our brainstem from our earliest days on earth, our caregivers. Now, what we think, or what happens unconsciously, is we meet this new energy that is like the old energy. And we are attracted because here there's going to be this energy that is like the caregiver image package, imago package of all those people that made up our caregivers. But here is this new energy, and this will be that energy that will love me like I need it to love me. This will be a new thing. And then, of course, what happens is we're attracted. And if I don't think he talks in these terms, but if it's our angel that's got us coming into relationship with this energy, what this is how we're tricked in a way. We are tricked into being attracted to that same kind of energy because that's the energy that imago has molded us to be who we are. And so what happens is we come in thinking this is going to be that imago, that caregiver, that person that we have already loved, that imago energy, but this time it won't hurt us like the imago hurt us, however that might have been. And we are all from folks that hurt us because that's just the nature of being human. We don't always get our way. I think I've shared my daughter was mad at me because I couldn't turn the sun off and it was in her eyes. I was somebody she learned not to trust based on that, at least that a little bit at any rate. I became a mother failure in my eyes at that moment. So we're in this imago relationship. And here's the beauty of this, even though it does get us into the place where, oh my gosh, the same hurt is happening to me again that happened to me before. But if I'm your angel, or if my angel's talking to me, my angel's saying, if we want Miriam to be healed from this early childhood experience and to be able to break free from that and move forward to become a peaceful and a person that's self-actualized, that knows her worth, that is at peace with who she is. Not because whoever out here is acting in a particular way, but is at peace with herself, then she needs to be coming up against the same kind of energy so she can move into it, move through it, and be released from those painful places that have happened. And so what generally happens is, we'll recognize, oh my gosh, that person's acting like my mother, that person's acting like my father. But in this imago theory, it's acting like all of those people that were in our caregiving days, if it truly is an imago match. Now, we can get into relationship with people who are not that imago match, and we probably don't feel as connected to them. It may be more in our head than it feels like it is in our heart. But the truth is, it's our gut or that brainstem matching all this energy. It's like we have our radar out, that periscope up from the submarine, and we're looking around, and like Neale Donald Walsch, and I think that was God's response to the question that Neil asked in that particular book. These energies meet, and that's what allows us to become attracted, because our energy plus their energy creates a new energy, and we're like, oh yes. Or maybe we match somebody's imago, but they don't match ours. That's not a good fit. When the imagos match each other, that's when it feels like some match that maybe is that love at first sight. I'm not sure about that, but that's when we get that hit. Wow, that person is somebody I'd really like to get to know. Now, here's the thing. Almost every teacher, and I listened earliest to, I guess it was Carolyn Myss, M-Y-S-S, in some of her work, and it's Caroline, spelled Caroline, she pronounces it Carolyn, Myss, M-Y-S-S, talked about the importance of having our first, not just relationship, but marriage to ourselves. That is not a selfish act. That is an act of self-examination. That is an act of knowing ourselves, because now that I know what that imago looks like, I no longer trust my attraction to it, because I know what is there, and I know what the outcome of that is. Or I've worked through it enough to see how to navigate it in a loving way. So Carolyn Myss, Marianne Williamson, some of the book that we're going to get to that is Byron Katie's book about relationships. She's also the one that did the work on those 4 questions. That's in the free course. Please look at those that information from the free course. But if we don't know ourselves first, then when we try to be authentic in relationship, sometimes we get knocked off our center and become what the other person wants us to be, depending on our nature. And how do we know which is ourself? Is it our personality? Is it the nature that we come in with? And then the reaction to our nature and our trying to please those around us or survive in the environment we come into creates the personality. And so I want to say again about Carol Tuttle's work on It's Just My Nature is the name of one of her books. And I can show this to you, but it will appear backwards. But it looks like that, backwards. Pardon me. It's Just My Nature. This is some of the work that I have tuned into in the last 3 years. And what it's done for me is helped me realize that the person I was trying to be was not really my true nature. Because when I came in with and there are only 4 natures, so it's pretty, for some it's complicated to figure out which nature you are, especially if you've been trying to live another nature. But we generally have a primary and a secondary, even though every nature there's some part of us that is every nature. But when I realized that the nature I came in with, because I was had such a strong movement, and I was called a bull in the china shop in my family. I was all about making people happy, and but that was a little too exuberant. In my family, you're supposed to be seen and not heard. And so the second energy type, that is my secondary, and it's the one that most women are taught they're supposed to be, which is all loving, all giving, all serving, and that's who I thought, that's who I became. So this work pulled back the layer. Not that those things about serving are not a piece of who I am, but my primary nature is more fun-loving and more random and more buoyant and, talk with my hands, all those things. Now, if I know my nature and if I know myself well, then there's that thing, well, there are 2 things. One is that my dad used to say, to thine own self be true, and thou cannot be false to any man. Let's shift that to anyone. So there's that thing about knowing yourself well enough to know and to hold our center in relationship to others, which is something I hadn't done, because in this imago piece, I was taught I had to please everybody in this imago. And I lost myself. And perhaps that's how relationships got muddled for me. Who knows? I've done lots of work on that, but we don't need to go into that. But if you know your nature, and even dress in colors that match your nature and are good fit for you, I cannot tell you the revelation this has been. Carol Tuttle has several websites, but if you Google her, you'll find this particular book. It's Just My Nature. I mentioned it before. We used some of the work from the Child Whisperer when we were trying to figure out how to be in relationship with others, how to deal with conflict. And unless you know yourself, and if you have a sense of who they are, you can navigate conflict a lot better. Being who you are to yourself in this first relationship and honoring who you are is going to make a world of difference. Because here's the second idea. We cannot truly help others, it's like being on the airplane and the oxygen thing comes down, or hopefully you've never had to do that. But what they say is if it comes down, put your own oxygen on your face and adjust it before you try to help others. Because often we begin to be in relationship without putting our oxygen mask on. This could be work relationships, relationships with our boss, relationships. And if we can't say, you know, I really work best in blah-de-blah, whatever it is, or if you know yourself well enough to know, then you can say to a significant other. We're not going to go into a lot of detail about navigating relationship tonight, but tonight was about this first relationship with yourself. And if you don't know yourself well, I recommend the easiest way for me was this Carol Tuttle work in that it's just my nature, the 4 natures that we can come in with. I've done tons of personality, Enneagram stuff, and Myers-Briggs. Those are personality typing systems. They're much more complicated than knowing your nature and living out your nature. And the more you live out your nature, the more peaceful you feel. Glory be to God. So it's about knowing ourselves, and then it's about knowing, out of this other book by Harville Hendricks and the Conversations with God, that every relationship that we are in is ordained. There's no accident. Whether it's been a horrible experience for you or a loving experience for you, and for most of us, relationships are a mixture of those. They are absolutely the right person at the right time, or you would not be there. The Holy will detour us or help us abort, or will abort for us those relationships we are not to be a part of. So in that way, I hope you can honor where you are, even if you're in a tough place, and find some peace knowing that there's something important about being in that particular relationship. So we'll talk more about this. I don't think anybody, I've shifted to the Facebook page, so you'll find this there, and nobody found me live tonight, but should there be, then this would be the time when I would say, do you have any questions? And then I have my little magnifying glass so I can read your questions. I thank you for listening if you've been here to visit, and I hope you have that you ponder this stuff about relationship, because being in relationship is one of the gifts of this life, and one of the gifts that brings peace. And if we're at peace and we're sending that peace out, imagine the peaceful people that will be attracted back to that energy as well. This is from my heart to yours. God bless.